Okay, so before I get started, before I even welcome you back to this video, I want to say I'm gonna be complaining about Clarke a lot on this video, and not because I hate the character and all of that stuff that people end up writing in the comments, because I understand this is what the character is. This is what the character is supposed to be. But then there are so many times a trope could be repeated, and you would just go, okay, this too shall fly. But without talking introductions any further, welcome back guys to another one of my videos in my review of the 14th episode of the 7th and final season of The 100, an episode that was otherwise titled The Sword of Homecoming. And we know the title, the whole idea of Homecoming is about them being on Earth on this episode, so I'm not going to talk about that in detail. We've got Clarke asking the question right away, and as soon as she walks out of that anomaly, where are we? And she gets the answer, the second Dom bunker, otherwise known as Hell. That's when Clarke realizes it, Earth. Now, the next thing that happens over here is pretty much something I've called on my trailer breakdown because of that white flashy light, which is pretty much Bill Cadigan using that pill, that nano chip, in order to teleport out of there, in order to make his escape and head back to Bordeaux, which still means killing Bellamy was for nothing, even if Clarke planned on killing Cadigan anyway. We already knew Gaia was on Earth. Based on the trailer, she tells her story. She was pulled through the anomaly to Earth. Closing the bridge defaults to the planetary origin of our DNA. That's what the man tells her, the disciple that pulls her through. Of course, that begs the question of whether or not all disciples, all Second Dawn followers of Cadigan, know that Earth is survivable and yet seem to follow in the footsteps of Cadigan. And speaking of Earth being survivable, Earth is back and green and well, like nothing happened. We've got reunions all over the place. We've got Echo and Octavia looking for Bellamy, asking about him, Clarke telling them that he is dead, that she killed him. And for a moment there, I thought that Octavia was about to rage. The way she was walking towards Clarke, I was like, she's just gonna rage against Clarke. But nonetheless, she did understand. I call that one as well. Like I did say, that was foreshadowing. What we watched a couple of episodes ago, that entire conversation were kind of similar. You with Madi and me with Hope. That was pretty much foreshadowing her reaction and kind of build up towards that very reaction. The thing though about Echo, and that's another thing that I called on the trailer, is she did not rage as well. She took it in a different manner, like basically blamed the beliefs for his death, the beliefs that he had, the beliefs that Cadigan implanted in him. So she was kind of blaming Cadigan indirectly. But circling back though, and before I move on to that foreshadowing with Octavia, I gotta say, whether we like what happened on last week's episode or not, we gotta admit the foreshadowing is real over here and was done really well. Like we were watching that scene with Octavia and Clarke, that conversation. Clarke did not care so much about that conversation. We as audience probably thought as well this conversation was just a 1-2 minute filler. But then this conversation was the basis of what we got to watch 2 episodes later. You gotta admit, that's good storytelling, at least from this aspect. Now Clarke does claim that she tried everything with Bellamy, and that kind of begs the question, did she really? I mean, she left Sheidheda alive. Cadigan did manage to escape. By the way, like how he kind of mocks her before he leaves. What is it that you say? May we meet again? Another question that kind of poses itself over here. Was the book the only problem there? I mean, say Bellamy gave her the book. Could he not have still just informed Cadigan that Madi knows, and then they would have still gone after Madi? I mean, no matter how you look at it, there was more of a problem than just the book. Clarke thinking it was all about the book, talking about it like if she would have gone in the book, her problems would have been solved, is in and out of itself lacking on logic, lacking on a thorough thought process. But is anyone else getting tired? Anyone else feeling it's kind of getting silly that Clarke kills someone, does whatever, she cries, tells people to hate her, and they just end up patting her on the back? Honestly, the trope's kind of getting very old over here. So time on Earth seems to pass in a similar fashion to Sanctum, which does not make any kind of sense considering a lot of things, including Earth not being close to a black hole, which means time should move faster than on Sanctum, and Earth should not be survivable now if it has shown zero signs of improvement in the first 50 years post the second apocalypse. Now let me reiterate over here, I'm not talking about hating Clarke as a person or the actress or the acting for the character. I'm talking over here about hating the character, and she is meant to be hated at this point. I mean, she makes all the bad decisions. So over here, she does the thing that she always does, makes decision for everyone without even asking, without consulting, because she thinks she is the only competent one in the room, and no one else could make a decision for themselves, not even as a group, not even by putting it to a vote. And even Madi sees it at some point down the road on this episode, like she actually sees the bullshit that Clarke kind of puts up here. But on the subject of her making that decision, smashing that helmet, I do like how Murphy is making more sense than her, how he uses Hatch to get Raven to fix the helmet to make sure that they bring everyone to Earth, everyone back in Sanctum. The theory about it all ending on Earth, like the finale of the season, makes a lot more sense now, more than ever. But circling back though to Clarke and her decisions, there's a lot on this episode that would have been avoided if she did not smash that helmet. I mean, I did love about this that it kind of proves my point. All they did there, it is absolutely misguided. She is absolutely misguided, and her decisions are uncalculated. So she left the bug behind. Sheidheda knows Madi has the answers. The other disciple or disciples could have overheard the name Madi loud and clear. They didn't, but they could have. Bill Cadigan made an escape. If he ever decides to send his men to Earth after Madi and they succeed in getting her, which isn't exactly what happened, but she was still a catalyst towards what happened at the very end, what Madi did at the very end. But nonetheless, this is something I would have thought of before breaking that helmet, because if all of that would happen, that's what I'd be thinking. With no helmet, it will be harder for me to go after Madi and save her. Being the great leader that Clarke is, the very smart one, the chosen one, that's what I would have thought if I were in her place, being responsible for Madi as well. But hey though, you're gonna find this funny. The moment that Clarke talked about not losing anyone else, I wrote the words in my notes, worried, Clarke, not losing anyone else. And what I was thinking over here is I'm really worried because the moment she says that, it always means that we're gonna end up losing someone else. We had one confirmed loss on this episode and 2 more possible losses, and of course Madi falling in the hands of Cadigan. Let's leave that behind though, find the closest stone and jump to Bardo ourselves, because you've got that conversation between the 2 villains and it's really brilliant. I love those conversations. Sheidheda is striking a deal with Cadigan. You could tell that Sheidheda, as strong as he is and as much as he instills fear, he's afraid of Cadigan and his people and their tech. He knows he stands no chance against them and he'd rather have assurances. Now, on the other hand, Cadigan cannot sway him, into believing in the whole transcending bullshit. Sheidheda apparently likes his meat sack. It's no. Love that statement. There are many one-liners over here that you're gonna love watching this episode. You're gonna love the sarcasm on this guy as well. But in all cases, and in order to move away from this one, Sheidheda does convince Cadigan he should be the one to go after Madi. He doesn't just know her, he's got serious beef with the kid. And this is what we see on the episode. He doesn't want Cadigan to get Madi as well. He wants to rule. He does not want to transcend. Now, I've mentioned this before on a previous video, but mentioning it again over here, the actress that portrays Nylah, she's the one who directed this episode. You could tell from the whole Boo story, you could tell as well from the many lines that she had. We do get a background story for her. Kind of interesting, kind of fun to watch, kind of good to know more about Nylah. I mean, Nylah never had a major story, but she did have a story, and it is good to understand what drives this person, what's behind this person. Now, that was a little bit of a heartfelt moment, between her and Echo, but in terms of heartfelt moments and heartfelt conversations, we've got the one between Indra and Octavia. That one too was heartfelt. The one that followed with Indra and Gaia as well were heartfelt. I mean, Indra was never just the teacher as Octavia referred to her, or the best teacher as Indra referred to herself, but she was always sort of a mother figure as well, for Blood Reina, for Octavia. All the talk about what happened there, the guilt, Blood Reina, that was really heartfelt, that was really good, that was really closure on that topic for Octavia. The way Indra handles it as well, feeling responsible for Octavia, that much love that she holds for her, I'm equally guilty of what happened down there. We were all Blood Reina. I loved that as well. That was a very nice touch and a very good reunion for the 2 characters. Now, obviously, because there was no time dilation as I expected, Hope and Jordan did not really happen as I suspected, but apparently they're starting to. The piano and Gabriel playing it, them dancing, those were the initiators of that relationship. The conversation as well that followed with Hope and Jordan, the similarities between them that brings them together, closer, the feeling guilty about their parents, that was a pretty solid moment for the two, like these two are gonna discover closure or find closure in the arms of one another. But okay though, it's always Murphy or something that's gotta do with Murphy that is the highlight of an episode that he is part of. This time it is Raven's statement, "Hero Murphy is kinda freaking me out," and then Emori's response, "I know, but it's kinda hot." There's the fact that Murphy does overhear them. He's standing right there. I mean, they were not whispering or anything, and we've all probably noticed by now. He tries to keep up this wall, like, no, I'm not a hero. I'm just doing this for that reason or that for this reason, just not doing it because I'm a good person. He always likes to deny that. But there's one more very funny, very entertaining scene with Murphy. You know, that scene with Hope and Jordan. Hope goes, "I've heard stories." Murphy goes, "I tend to play well in stories." She goes, "Not these." He goes, "Those stories." Yeah. Hey Murphy, I got this. That's Jordan entering the scene. Okay, I was his favorite though. Wasn't I, Jordan? But all of this is happening though while Sheidheda is on the base. He's roaming around trying to find Clarke. Clarke has just freed herself after Sheidheda has imprisoned her in a room, headed towards the rec room where Gabriel and Madi are. Clarke has now realized that they should leave, they should find the stone. I mean, I respect the idea, she wants to protect her daughter, but this innate selfishness to her does always end up finding a way to get on my nerves. Like, it is me and Madi, and the hell with everyone else. I mean, wasn't the argument about going back versus not going back all about not losing more people? Like early on in the events of the episode, a couple of hours ago from her perspective, wasn't that what it was all about? Or was it always just about her and Madi and the hell with everyone else? Clarke has always indeed been a little bit self-centered and selfish, and I know a lot of people are gonna argue, "Oh, you hate Clarke." I like the character the way it's written. I mean, she's supposed to be written in this fashion. She's supposed to be this person. But here's another question that I kept asking myself though. If you know you've got invisible soldiers, or one soldier even, going around, wouldn't you try to whisper things rather than screaming out loud to get a location so someone else would race to get the kid? It just seems to me like Clarke's brain, Clarke's thought process has gone on vacation at the beginning of this episode, and it is understandable with what happened on last week's episode, but she's kind of making one silly decision, one stupid decision after the other, and it's kind of costing her and everyone else a lot. But okay though, we just spoke of Bellamy, you know, the death that impacted Clarke probably caused this lack of thinking on her end. This week we get yet another death, honestly, one I felt worse about than that of Bellamy. It was a good death, it wasn't a bad death. I felt bad about it because I like the character of Gabriel. It did make a lot of sense that Sheidheda would stab the only person remaining in his way before he gets to the girl. It did make sense as well that he overpowers Gabriel. I mean, we know Sheidheda is quite a strong person. But the character of Gabriel, though, and in general, has become one of my favorite characters on the series since his introduction on Season 6, and seems that thing with Josephine last week, that was his final moment of redemption, and his goodbye as well. Gabriel has just spent so many decades trying to redeem himself, and at this point he had his redemption. Last week was one final moment of redemption. Trying to save Madi this week was yet another moment of redemption, a moment of heroism as well. And he got his goodbye last week, and he got another goodbye this week. It was really lovely. But speaking of that entire situation, we've got Sheidheda talking to Madi. He's always planned to betray Cadogan, seek vengeance upon Madi. He does not want to transcend, he wants to rule. He does not want to send her back to Bardo. He does not want to give her the nanochip nor stab her with the dagger. Well, it's not really a dagger, more of an injection that would send her back to Bardo. But instead, what he's doing over here is he's trying to stab her with his own blade. He wants to gut her. He wants to end Madi completely, seek vengeance for his eye, and he wants to prove he's overpowered her. But yeah, Sheidheda, and one more time, makes it away from a near-death situation, makes it out alive. This guy's got more than 9 lives. He might not have succeeded at achieving what Cadogan wanted or what he wanted, you know, either sending Madi back to Bardo or killing Madi, but nonetheless Clarke's actions are what led Madi to make the decision to sacrifice herself in the very end. It was Clarke's choice to kill for her, kill Bellamy, to strand them on Earth and the people on Sanctum, everyone, without giving anyone a choice, making a decision on behalf of all of them without even consulting them, thinking that she is the only one that's competent while actually doing it secretly because of selfish and self-centered reasons. All of that has led Madi to make that decision at the very end. The outcome there, that was just inevitable. Someone at some point was going to try to break Clarke's cycle, and it was Madi. But as a product of the decisions that Clarke has been making, there's another consequence on this episode. There's the bomb that was sent through the anomaly. The bomb that ended up almost taking down the second dome bunker, the very bomb that led to whatever happened to Murphy and Amori happening, no matter what it is, be it something that's gonna lead to the death of either or both of them, or something that's gonna cause some kind of major injury. In the end, Clarke is to blame for that. If they would have left there, if they would have gotten back to Sanctum, things would have been way better. Now, the objective of highlighting all of this is not to diss a character. I want to say that again at the end of the video because in the end, the character is what the character is. Clarke is definitely one character that's out there in the real world, I mean with a different story, no portals, no anomalies, no science fiction, but nonetheless there are people like Clarke in the real world, and these people are not necessarily fully bad, they're not necessarily fully good, no one is. But in the end, you gotta realize that as a fandom, sometimes some fandoms are not really looking at the story, but they're rather looking at the silly stuff, like they're looking at a character and making them into gods, kind of like what Bellamy did with the shepherd there. So pretty much some of us could end up being sheep, when the series is pretty much telling us being a sheep is a bad thing. That said, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Let me know what you think is going to happen on the final 2 episodes of the season. Let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it one of those much appreciated likes, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, the 100 or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning into this video, stay safe, and have a great day.